I don't want to spend any time dealing with my insurance company. I mean, like, I love you guys, but I don't want to deal with you.
Exactly.
I always think of insurance like as it's almost like people almost want like a Google-like experience. When you need it, it delivers the answer fast.
That is a huge opportunity, right? If you look at any area, whether it be enrollment data or claims data that's entered manually maybe or through a template or a form, all of those are great opportunities to think about how do I do an automatic translation.
Everything's easier, more seamless, faster. That's the whole goal.
It is. It is.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of IT Visionaries. And today, we have a special guest. Her name is Sheila Anderson, and she is the Chief Information Officer of a company called Aflac. I'm sure you've heard of it. If you're a sports fan, you certainly have seen the ads, but you might not know exactly what it does. It's not quite like your traditional auto insurance company. They sell insurance, but it's not quite something everyone knows, but I think everyone can benefit from. Sheila, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Listen, for our audience who may or may not know, can you tell us what is Aflac and what does it do?
Absolutely, happy to. Aflac's vision is to basically create a world where people are better prepared for the unexpected, as much insurance is, with benefits being the primary health insurance that people or your insurance may not normally cover. For nearly 70 years, Aflac has provided supplemental insurance. And think of it as that gap insurance that covers the gap between what your regular insurance may cover. It enables you to focus on that primary areas of your life rather than your financial stress. Aflac pays cash benefits for your expenses that may not be covered by that primary health insurance. We basically are also a financially strong organization. If you think about that, we have for, I believe, about 40 consecutive years, we've been committed to providing dividend increases. So that's a nice, fun investment fact about Aflac as well. We're actually in a growth era right now. We have actually acquired several companies in last couple of years, in the past 2 years. We've had a buy to build strategy. We've expanded into our group dental and vision company, and we also have a Premier Life absence management and disability solution company, providing additional services to our customers, and we're happy to be able to expand into those markets. And we're very focused on our customer experience, given that, and we're absolutely transforming that through our advancements in technology as we look at technology and some of these emerging technologies.
Yes. And I am, I'm one of those people. I always say about insurance is it's something like I think most people, they don't really want to think about it. And I think a lot of people also, you might not even want it, but it's one of those things where you definitely are happy you have a great insurance company when you do need it. And I unfortunately had to experience that with helping my mom at end of life care. And it turns out very much so, supplemental insurance was critical. It was absolutely critical for helping my brother, who eventually took off from work to help care for her during that time period. It was critical. Like not having that policy, I don't know what other people would do in that situation. For my perspective, when I was a consumer of the product, and then I want to hear your perspective of how to deliver this. The biggest thing that we needed was speed to resolution. I think a lot of people who have dealt with insurance companies in the past have felt that pain. It can be a long time between claim and reimbursement or whatever the case may be. How does technology play a part in making that a better process? Because as the end customer, a lot of times when you need supplemental life or accident or health or benefits, dental, some of the things that your company covers, speed is kind of the biggest thing. I feel like
it's very important.
Stress-free. I want it to be stress-free. I'm already in a stressed out situation.
Exactly. And that's the case, right? So you have individuals calling that are usually in a very stressful situation. So you want that to be a seamless experience. And if they don't have to call at all, that's even better. So one of the things that we've implemented at Aflac that absolutely supports that immediate pay situation is we have implemented various AI technologies under the cover that help us to really assess those claims, make sure that the quality of the claim is valid, and enable us to pay many of those claims directly. So that speed to market and implementing those solutions has absolutely been critical for us. And then the other benefit that it gave us as a company, it actually started out as a quality play. So making sure that we had a robust approach to looking at our claims and ensuring the integrity and quality of the data on the claim so that we didn't have to go back and forth with that claimant many different times. And it pivoted quickly into also having that time to market aspect, which is paying directly and as quickly as possible. And many of those claims where we didn't need additional proof of loss, for example, being able to pay those almost instantly.
Imagine a world where your data flows like electricity, unseen, yet powering everything you do. A world where high availability, low latency, and disaster recovery are not just expectations, but they're realities. Welcome to the future, powered by Zayo's network. Zayo has meticulously designed North America's largest independent fiber network, a network that just isn't vast, but strategically planned, connecting the places that matter most to you. Thousands of data centers, cloud on-ramps, towers, and critical points of presence. Zayo provides routing diversity that ensures your operations never skip a beat, and ultra-low latency for when microseconds matter. Zayo's fiber network is extensive, reaching deep into hundreds of key urban and rural markets. This is where resilience meets performance, and where your most ambitious projects find their footing. In a world that never stops, Zayo is the network underneath it all, helping the most innovative and forward-thinking companies grow. Because Zayo doesn't just connect places, they connect possibilities. Zayo connects what's next for you. Discover the power of Zayo's network today. Visit www.zayo.com/network. Yeah, give us an idea, or our audience an idea, of how the technology can go, or technology that Aflac has implemented, that your team has stewarded, can help that process. Because I think we've all, as customers, of all of our listeners, we've been customers on the side of an insurance policy or a claim. And the traditional way is going to be, you got to gather a lot of documents. You got to gather a lot of paperwork. You might have some back and forth. You hope that there's an online portal, but I still remember, of course, there was a time when your agent would be like, can you email me this? And it's like, I already sent this to you. You didn't have the benefit of AI to scan a doc. I think it was read by people. I don't know if that's how it works now. It's like, it's scanned. Give us an idea of what has changed fundamentally in the insurance industry that is making this easier.
Well, the technology is absolutely enabling it to be easier and better and faster. One of the great things about insurance is we have always had a wealth of data. The other thing that we've had to focus on is how do we actually make sure that that data is presented in a way that's clean and we have quality data so that we can make better and more informed decisions for our customers and be there in the time of need, as we like to say at Aflac, because we really just we're selling a promise to be there and to make sure that we're paying those claims and making it easier for those individuals that are going through those tough times. So for us, that's key. Paying that claim, getting quality data, and getting it out the door as fast as we can to our customer base. We always start with, how are we trying to make things better? And what's the business opportunity that we're trying to solve for? Who's the consumer of this information or this process? And how do we do a walk of that from an end-to-end view to determine where we might have opportunities to be better and to improve that? You talked a little bit about the consumer experience. That's absolutely one of our top focuses going into the next few years. And as you can imagine, also for us, we have acquired several new companies that offer new products. So one of our focuses is absolutely to have a much more unified view of integrating these customer experiences together across all of these new product offerings that we have at Aflac, specifically in the group space.
And then how, if you could kind of share some of the, maybe some high level how is that going to be done? Because, the one thing I think we all have experienced also as consumers is getting stuck in a call tree, right? So if you're acquiring companies, and I don't want to be in a call tree, especially in this situation, I don't want to talk to agent A who has to then transfer me to agent B, who then has to transfer, that's painful. I think we've all been there and felt that pain. How do you, that, and that's just one example.
So that's one aspect of it, right? So if you look at the support and the call center and the support side of it is just one aspect. We are, I would say, migrating a lot of the work to a consistent call center experience. We've done that. For example, our individual line of business has a very mature call center process. And with our new dental and vision business, when it came in, we weren't seeing some of the results and the call times that we wanted to see in our call center. So rather than have that stand alone and be unique, we did move that in with our individual call center. And those individuals were already skilled in supporting that claims process, and we were able to reduce that call time and also satisfy those requests coming in within an acceptable time frame. So we always look across the ecosystem, and we'll be doing much more of that, where we can streamline and integrate much more smoothly to solve our customer challenges and also to bring a more seamless integrated experience. And it won't happen overnight. It will take time. We're in the middle of doing a lot of sessions where we're looking at basically the end-to-end process view and then determining what's our fastest approach to do that by, of course, focusing on our digital engagement layer first. So how do we streamline the engagement layer? Because some of those back-end systems and back-office processes where, for example, we may have multiple claim systems, and we do today, you want to separate that so that you can consistently present that claims data back to your consumer without having to switch out all of those back-end systems in the beginning. We will over time, but in the beginning, of course, that's not an investment that would get the value. So we'll focus on that digital engagement layer and all of the touch points with the consumer and the customer, whether it be a claimant, whether it be an agent, a broker, anyone in our distribution channel as well.
So how does that give us an idea of what that looks like in your team? Because of course you're going to talk, you probably have experts in the field that knew maybe method one. You're going to have experts in the field that know method two. And then you might have to come up with a new solution, right? Like there might need to be like a brand new solution. So how do you and your team go about evaluating, what to keep, what to change, and what to build brand new?
So it always starts with the business problem that we're solving. So we spend quite a bit of time with our business, understanding the challenge and the opportunity together. So that's a big thing, really spending more time listening and understanding the business and working in very much an integrated fashion. We've been working in an agile mindset for quite a few years. We're taking that to the next level. So one of the things that we're starting to look at is more of a product mindset view of how we operate. So we will have teams, and we're just starting down this path, specialized in claims, for example. So working with our business to understand that consistent claims experience for Aflac will be key, or our consistent enrollment experience across all of our businesses. That's the future. If you think about how we've traditionally operated in the past and where we're going to, it'll be much more of a product view so that you can have that consistent experience regardless of how the touch point and how you're interfacing with us.
You mentioned that product-centric kind of concept. It was said a long time ago by Mark Andreessen that every software scene in the world, or that you hear different versions of it, where like every company is going to be a software company, or every company is going to be a product company, I guess is another way to think of it. How do you encourage your team to build these products so that they are consumer-centric? Because the reality is the insurance industry, not historically known for making the best interfaces. They've definitely gotten better, but historically, I don't think people would say, oh, that's a beautiful product or easy product to use. Oftentimes it could be complicated. And you're handling complex information all the time. How do you, I guess, become a steward of that? Does it mean like training? Does it mean learning and development? Does it mean hiring new skills? Give us an idea of how you go about approaching that.
I love that. So that's a big question, and it's yes to all of that. I will start with some of the organizational structure that we have put in place. I have separated out a team that focuses on our user experience, and as we look to move to a product model, that team is called our digital engagement team. So think of that team as a team that really sits on the front end of all of the work that we do and doubles down on focusing on that customer journey, really mapping out the end-to-end customer journey before we start working on anything so we can really understand what it is that we're solving for. In that same team, I also have a small innovation team that does a lot of test and learn, very quick piloting and proof of concept and ideation around emerging technologies and new services. So we've actually combined our experience team and we call it Hatch. It's our Hatch Innovation Lab, and our Hatch team to ideate around how do you solve and how do you leverage some of the emerging technologies to maybe think about solving some of these challenges differently? So that's one thing. And the other thing, relative to the customer experience, we do all of our work lining up with our business. We have our regular planning sessions. We focus on prioritization of our business asks as well. So tightly integrating with our business teams, making sure that we're doing everything from planning to execution together is key. And we actually have measures of success around customer experience for a lot of our tier one applications. So that's something that we've seen improve. For example, Everwell is our individual enrollment application. We had challenges with stability when that application was originally rolled out. It was originally a mainframe-based application, and so we started our journey to the cloud by making a big bet and saying, instead of testing and learning on something small, we have a need to actually stabilize this environment. So we're going out big. We're going to take one of our biggest applications, maybe not the smartest thing, but so the team was learning, right? So you talked about education and learning. We did partner with a third party to help to deliver that solution. We did get it migrated to the cloud. We achieved our stabilization goal in the beginning. We had some learnings because it did cost a little bit more than we had expected when we moved it to the cloud. We had kind of oversized some things because there really wasn't an understanding, and we didn't want to impact any of our surge times that we had with our enrollment. Now, today, that has had definitely improvement in what we like to call our customer ease scores, enrollment ease. That has improved significantly. And then our cost has actually been cut by 50%. So we've been able to absolutely achieve. Sometimes you have to have a little patience in the beginning because you may see a surge in some unexpected costs and other things. But as you start learning and training the organization and maturing, you'll see more of that. Education is a big thing for us as well. I've been in this role just a little over a year and a half. We've brought in very much a focus on continuous learning in the organization. So one of the things that we do is set training goals for every individual on the team. And they set aside time on their calendars to do that training. We don't prescribe what it is, but if they want to gain a new skill, that's absolutely some of the things that we see as a good measure of value that someone's contributing to the team is how much new things they're able to learn, and then actually put that to work in the work every day. So that's been key. We do both on-premise, in-person training, and then we've also implemented platform training. Pluralsight is one of the platforms that we've partnered with. And it also has assessments built into that. So the team is really enjoying building their competency through these new learning programs that we've put in place.
You kind of just dropped it there, but it was pretty substantial hearing that you went from a mainframe-based application to a cloud-based application. Like that was like your first move. Had you done a major shift like that in a previous role? Because I know you've held previous or similar roles in other organizations.
Yes. As I like to say, one of the benefits of having worked in two other property and casualty insurance, Fortune 100 insurance companies, is you are able to bring the best of your playbook forward to every role that you do. So I have absolutely leveraged a lot of the learnings from those organizations and have been able to walk in the door here and very quickly do an assessment of where we are and start implementing some of those. One of the big things, too, that I always start with that we're working on now is our talent strategy. I'm a big believer in you absolutely have to focus on making sure that your organization is right skilled and right sized, not just for today, but for where you want to be 3 years from now and 5 years from now. So we have a huge focus on building out current state and future state roadmaps. We've done a lot of work around technology architectural assessments to understand the disposition of every application in our inventory, do roadmaps for those. And then we've also brought in a partnership with Aptio, and we've implemented a focus on technology business management so that we actually, for the first time in a long time, have visibility into the cost drivers for all of these applications. And it helps us to make better decisions around investment in the future, where we need to be spending more and where we need to be right-sizing and possibly spending less based upon alignment to our corporate goals.
So, in your answer, I'm pulling together actually an answer that we get asked or people ask us to ask leaders a lot, which is, you might know, like, let's say I'm a tech leader at my organization. I know something could possibly benefit the organization, but sometimes there's change, let's say change resistance or resistance to change.
Mhm.
They often, a question we get asked a lot is like, what is the best way to demonstrate to shareholders that this should be done, right? Because I guess knowing it's not enough, you got to prove it. And so you kind of hinted at it with
Mhm.
your partnership with Aptio, understanding, I guess, the cost of some of the
Absolutely.
applications and possibly services that you're
Yes.
using. How do you go about it?
It's education. Yes, transparency. You have to lead with transparency. I'm a big believer in that, whether it is transparency of good news or bad news. It doesn't get better over time. So you absolutely have to keep your leadership team informed and your executive leadership team and board especially. So to give you an idea of some of the ways that we've done that, as soon as I was able to provide transparency of cost at a detailed level around our applications, I took that forward and shared it with our executive leadership team. The more informed that they are about the current situation and where we need to go, it will help me as I propose approaches and ask for funding in the future. It will absolutely help me and the company overall if they're better informed and more informed so that they can make a much more informed decision around those asks rather than having technology be a scary black box, which it is to many people. So we've actually spent time also educating. For example, our board has expressed a lot of interest in learning about some of these technologies. A few months ago, we put a team together of some of the key leaders, a topical discussion with the board. We did an invite to the whole board. They all showed up, which was interesting. It was outside of the board meeting time. And we did a 2-hour session focusing about an hour on all things cloud technology so that they could understand what it is first, where we're at in that journey. And then the second part was very much focused on all things AI and all things coming with large language model, generative AI, and ChatGPT. We also did very much a focus because at the time that was literally, I think, the week that it broke. So you can imagine the hype scale was off the charts that week. So we got a lot of interesting questions. But we actually very quickly were able to show, look, we've actually already approached this from a policy perspective as it relates to security. You have to jump on top of that very quickly to make sure that you're protecting the privacy of your data and that you have some aspect of how you're going to manage that across your corporation. So we partnered the CISO, Tim Callahan, who's a peer of mine. We partnered and across the organization put together a team that worked on policy development around guardrails for responsible use within Aflac and those types of things. So it's been really great. And we've had fireside chats with Tim, who's our CISO, myself, CIO, and our Chief Legal Counsel, Audrey Tillman. And that is interesting because all of us were coming at the generative AI emerging technology from a different lens. And it was really great for the company to see all of our shared but different perspectives and how at the end of the day, we were aligning on an agreed path forward.
I'd love to know what happened in that meeting because, like you said, full attendance, everyone's there. They're curious about the cost. They want to understand transformation cloud. Of course, Gen AI is here. Everyone's talking about it. When I see some of the things that AI can do, and I'm making assumptions, right? But I know that, for example, one of the things that can be tremendously more beneficial is information extraction from documents, because I know in the world of health, like everyone does it differently. Some of the people are going to have handwritten records. Some of the people are going to code things differently. So extracting that information into a usable, I guess what your systems need is one way AI can help quite a bit. What are some of the things that you're seeing in the short term that are going to help you and your team, whether it's process claims, come to conclusions quicker, deliver better service? What are some of the things that you're seeing AI deliver now? And what do you hope for, I guess, in the next, let's say, 5 to 10 years?
Of course, I think in the customer experience area, serving up data so that you can make more informed decisions, that's absolutely key. For us, of course, you've talked about document extraction in the claims process, for example. We're also, for us in the group space, for example, we have some challenges around things like many different enrollment partners on the front end of our processes. So very disparate views of what should be a standard and agreed industry data template, which is not the case. So we're actually doing some work around leveraging Gen AI to automatically create those mappings for us to take the manual work out of, really almost like that ETL on the fly, creating it on the front end so that we take the manual steps out of that process.
Oh, I got to share this. I got to share this with our audience because I just did this for one of our companies, and the intake form was handwritten. It was handwritten.
That is exactly what we're looking at. Yes.
Like
yeah. So I think that is a huge opportunity, right? If you look at any area, whether it's for us, it would be enrollment data coming in, right? Any of those, whether it be enrollment data or claims data that's entered manually maybe or through a template or a form, all of those are great opportunities to think about, how do I do an automatic translation and bring that in. So I think that's key. We're also looking at it, when I think of Gen AI, or AI in general, I think of that kind of productivity and enablement piece, which is often inside of your organization.
Okay.
And then if you think about a business accelerator model, which is really going to drive business abilities or launch a business into new areas or drive revenue, grow your customer base. On the productivity side, we're also looking at the development potential of using some of the Gen AI capabilities as a reverse engineering or re-engineering. We have done some pilots where we've seen anywhere from 5 to 10x productivity improvement through the use of the capability to do that. So we're really trying to think about, how do we perhaps roll this out? How do we train our engineers so that they can leverage this as a tool in their toolkit to perhaps shorten the time frame that it takes to do development? And we don't always develop new. That's a big misnomer. I think a lot of what we do also is as work as an integrator. So we're integrating things as well. But I do think there's opportunity to shorten some of those development life cycles, leveraging some of these capabilities. And if you think about testing, some of those repeat processes within technology, you absolutely could leverage in the future. So I do see some of those types of things. Anything that's repeatable, anything that needs that you could really have a predictive answer to. Also, those are all things that are ripe for solutioning differently in the future.
Yeah, that's something I'm just imagining how it translates over to the customer side. Like, if everything's easier, more seamless, faster, that's the whole goal, right? Everyone wants to be able to
it is
just go, I always think of insurance like as it's almost like people almost want like a Google-like experience. It's like when you need it, it delivers the answer fast, but I don't want to spend any time dealing with my insurance company. I mean, like, I love you guys, but I don't want to deal with you.
Exactly.
When you think about where this industry is going and where the capabilities, I guess, of AI, and you mentioned before collaborating with your security officer, large language models, of course, need oceans of data to understand what's happening. And of course, Aflac has that. But there's also this, you can't really share it with other, you know what I mean? Like, because it's my health information, or it's, my loved one's health information. I'm not trying to have it. I don't want, I guess, I'm assuming most people don't want it to be used in other ways. How do you go about that delicate balance? Because yes, you need it, but also it needs to be secured. But also you could benefit if there was data from the outside world helping to influence these decisions.
And that is a fine balance, I will say. There are some publicly available data services already that many people use. We actually leverage some of those, for example, to help with claims processing and other things. But it's a fine balance. For Aflac specifically, we always are going to take approach of being very considerate and protective of our claimant and customer data. So that's always top of mind for us. So a lot of the development that we're doing, of course, is what I like to say inside the walls of Aflac. It's pretty well protected. So we're leveraging that very much for internal decision making to aid our employee base in helping our customers and then our customer base as well. So it's very tightly controlled. I do think that large language models are very well positioned to disrupt almost every aspect of many industries, and especially in financial services, insurance included. The approach that we're taking is more of a test and learn approach. We're not trying to be the fastest to market. We're being very intentional with choosing a few use cases and models that we're working on and learning from. And then we will roll those out. And we're looking at both the benefits. There always has to be a business benefit to anything that we do. And then the risks associated in balancing the two. Because our goal is always not to put our business at risk. And if you've listened to anything that Dan Amos, our CEO, says, he says, never risk a lot for a little. And
That's
so
right.
that is a little bit of the mindset around how we're approaching some of this. It is test and learn. We will prove it out. We'll be very thoughtful. We do a lot of the testing internal. Of course, if you think about the challenges with hallucinations or any of the challenges, there's a whole risk side of leveraging some of these models. So we're very considerate of that as well as we're doing our testing and learning.
One of the questions as I hear this and I'm thinking about this, I'm going to ask every CIO and CISO and CTO about this, but the authenticity or the authentication of data feels like this was going to be the new battle to fight, because I'm sure 99 whatever % of customers don't try to commit fraud, but there is a subset of people that do try to commit fraud. And so I could see people using generative AI to create documents to try to falsify records.
Right, to generate fraudulent information.
Fraudulent records, yeah.
Yes.
How do you think about attacking or preventing that?
I think that's something that you're going to have to pay attention to. I know our security team is relentlessly focused on that. I actually have hired a new vice president of data and AI who will have that as a focus and as part of our strategy going forward. I think this brings a whole renewed focus to data. There's been a huge focus on data and analytics for a lot of years, but I do think this brings a whole renewed focus to data availability, the quality of data, accessibility, the privacy and protection of your data. All of those are heightened as a result of these new technologies. So, it's kind of interesting. I was just watching a blog, a travel blog that I love, and you are starting to see impacts to businesses, small businesses particularly. And this individual was writing that she had a publicly available small blog around travel, but it was her business and she was turning a profit for the business. And overnight, Google changed their algorithms leveraging AI, and they were searching and basically pulling her content in. So now when people search for content that used to come to her site, Google has the information. And so I do think there's going to be a renewed focus on some of those things too, like the creator of that information. If you push it out generally on the web, is it publicly available, and do you no longer own it? All of those things are going to be highlighted. I think the more and more that you see businesses being disrupted by some of these things, and that was the first example where I had actually read of that being a situation where someone was actually talking about it. It was interesting.
Yeah, I think you're going to be, let's say, busy. You're going to be busy the next few years. This is not going to go away. I think it's going to overall, I say to people, it's going to make life better, but it is going to create a new subset of defense.
I agree. But you have to look at everything, right? There's always a balance. And one of the things, you continue to talk about speed to market.
Yep.
I do think there's a human element of this too. If you think about the amount of information that's going to be available that people are going to at some point either trust or distrust. Yeah. I think it's also going to get down to some of the human element of trusting and making sure that there are valid sources for the data, like you said, going back to that data integrity, the quality, making sure it's valid. I think it's going to be really important for there to be trusted sources that people see as being valid in the future, because there's going to be a lot that's probably not as well.
Yeah, I personally see a future where I think, I don't think it's blockchain, but some level of cryptography that's going to create like key pairings between APIs. Like that's the only way data is going to be allowed to be transferred, so that there's some one on the other side authenticating it. So for example, like a health record, for example, supplemental insurance happens after my medical insurance doesn't cover whatever its limits are. And so it needs some type of like three-way key pairing that says, no, this is a valid medical event, medical coverage. And then in your case, now supplemental takes over. So three people need to agree that this is true.
Agreed. And I think that too leads to why you can't think of any of this work. For example, if you create models, you can't think of it as once and done, once it's implemented. I think the monitoring in every day of those models has become more and more important, because of some of the aspects of the data trust, the data integrity, all of those aspects.
Do you think the key stakeholders, maybe people with more of a background in finance, for example, do you think they understand this? Because I feel like when I talk to some, let's say, older leaders, they used to feel like, hey, this is a set it and forget it kind of concept. Like I build this one time and I don't need to touch it again. Because that's used to be how like I think some applications were thought of. But you kind of hinted at it. It's like this is an evolution and you won't ever stop evolving.
This is an evolution, and I don't think that's it. And I'll give you an example. We actually started our first AI, not Gen AI, but our first AI initiative, and it started out as a quality play, ended up being a productivity and time to market. We've actually now been able to monitor that and put it in play for multiple product lines at Aflac. So rather than keeping it to the first scope, it has evolved over the couple of years that we've actually been working through that model.
You think they understand that this is a continuous improvement kind of concept and not this is a 5-year plan and it's locked?
Hopefully most people do. It just even the nature of the technology is constantly evolving and changing. So I do think this kind of brings everything into a new way of looking at things, and it's definitely an iterative and evolving approach, and you have to really monitor those models while they're running in your production ecosystem.
Couldn't agree more. So anyone out there who's listening and who's hoping that their CIO or CTO can just build one thing and just solve all problems for the next 3, 4, 5 years, I got bad news. It's not going to happen.
That's correct.
The industry just doesn't stop. Sheila, it was a lot of fun having you on this show. I want to say thank you for sharing some of your solutions and how your mindset, I guess, of how you're approaching some of these problems. But before you go, I do want to ask some fun questions so our audience can get to know you a little bit better. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So I've been to Columbus, Georgia, because I've done some work there. But I'm curious, if someone was to go visit, like let's say they were, dropping, there's a big military base, there's a couple small headquarters there. For anyone who looks it up, Columbus, Georgia is on the border of Alabama and Georgia. Where would you recommend they go eat?
They go eat in Uptown at Mabella's. It's one of my favorite restaurants. So definitely Mabella's. Great Italian food.
When you are not working, what do you do for fun?
I enjoy traveling, and I love any place that's warm and has a beach.
Warm and beaches. All right. Yes. Are you a reader, a podcast listener, or what do you do for entertainment?
I enjoy reading. I do listen to podcasts a little bit. As you can imagine, though, this job is more than a full-time job right now, so I don't have as much time to do that as I would like.
When you do choose entertainment, what kind of entertainment do you like? Are you a romance person? Are you an action movie person? Or I've met some horror people too. Like, what kind of entertainment do you like to consume?
I would say I like things that are not necessarily romance, but a little bit more positive given the nature of some of our politics today. So maybe things that take me a little bit out of the reality. So definitely that. I'm also a lover of music, theater and opera as well. So, and Broadway, of course. We like taking trips to New York City, one of my favorite cities as well.
All right. What's a show that you would recommend someone check out?
Oh, my goodness. My all-time favorite, and it's an old one, but I love Les Miserables, and I had the opportunity to actually travel to France in May, so that was really special. And the old one, Phantom of the Opera, I love it as well. Love the music in both of those. All
right, final question. Would you say you're a good singer?
I'm okay.
Awesome. Well, listen, I always say I'm a terrible singer, but when I sing to myself in the car, I'm awesome.
That's right. It depends who's listening.
Well, Sheila, it was awesome having you on the show. Thanks for sharing some of the stuff that Aflac is and you and your team are doing in the supplemental insurance industry. I think I speak for all consumers that we want this to be easier. And it sounds like you are on a mission to make that easier.
We are working on it for you. Absolutely. We have a 3-year plan, I promise.
Listen, and everyone out there listening, this is my personal, this is not from Sheila, although I think she'll agree with me. I think you'd be shocked at how expensive medical care actually is. And take a good look at your policies and see what it does and does not cover. I think you'd be surprised at what it doesn't cover. And if that's the case, supplemental insurance is definitely something to look at. I can't explain how expensive it got. in that situation. And it's an unfortunate part of life. And so if you have the means, take a look. And I would strongly encourage anyone to evaluate if it's the right thing for them.
Absolutely. I think you realize you need it once the situation has occurred. So
well, that's the problem.
You want to be in front of that. It's too late. It's too late, right? So you really want to be in front of that.
That's absolutely right. Sheila, it was awesome having you today on IT Visionaries.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed it.
Imagine a world where your data flows like electricity, unseen, yet powering everything you do. A world where high availability, low latency, and disaster recovery are not just expectations, but they're realities. Welcome to the future, powered by Zayo's network. Zayo has meticulously designed North America's largest independent fiber network, a network that just isn't vast, but strategically planned, connecting the places that matter most to you. Thousands of data centers, cloud on-ramps, towers, and critical points of presence. Zayo provides routing diversity that ensures your operations never skip a beat, and ultra-low latency for when microseconds matter. Zayo's fiber network is extensive, reaching deep into hundreds of key urban and rural markets. This is where resilience meets performance, and where your most ambitious projects find their footing. In a world that never stops, Zayo is the network underneath it all, helping the most innovative and forward-thinking companies grow. Because Zayo doesn't just connect places, they connect possibilities. Zayo connects what's next for you. Discover the power of Zayo's network today. Visit www.zayo.com/network.